We really appreciate everybody coming out tonight as we have the first Winterpock Candidate Forum. Hope this time is going to be educational and informative for everyone involved. A quick note, we are recording the event tonight. So if you are here and would prefer not to be recorded, this would be a good time to go ahead and depart. We will provide access to the video at a later time so you can see and hear all of the questions and answers given tonight. I'm going to try and do as little talking as possible, so I'm going to start that now by giving each of the candidates a moment to introduce themselves.
Good evening, Winterpock Elementary parents. My name is Shawana Nicole Mason. I'm the Democratic candidate for the Matoaka District Board of Supervisors. I am actually from Matoaka, born and raised here. I graduated from Matoaka High School in 1993. I went to UVA, graduated from there in 1997. Went to the University of Richmond, graduated from there in 2001. Also obtained my Juris Doctorate and a Master's of Social Work. And from there, I've just been working public service. I have a law firm in which I specialize in criminal and family law, and most of my practice is a court-appointed work. So giving back to me is something that's important. I love Matoaka. I'm here because I feel that I could bring a lot of different ideas to the area, and I'm very passionate about what I do. And so I do thank you for the opportunity of being here, and I look forward to your questions.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Denisha Nicole Potts. I am the Democratic candidate or endorsed candidate for the Matoaka District School Board seat. I am a resident of Hampton Park, which is not too far from you, and have been involved in our community for some time now, for the last several years. I have worked tirelessly with our children in our community, and as well as been involved in other organizations, which has availed me the opportunity to work complaints from our students' perspective, from our parents and from our teachers. I currently serve on your Chesterfield County Schools Equity Committee. This is my third year, as well as, let me cover my degrees. I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in Therapeutic Recreation and a Master's in Healthcare Administration. I'm a state government employee with the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, which I am a policy review specialist. I think that in itself brings a lot of, it will be an asset to your board, being that I have a mental health and an intellectual disability background. So I know about trauma informed, I know about the waivers and how that process works, and I also have contact with state government offices to get you the support that you need without any cost. I know we like to hear that. I have partnered with other schools by having a back-to-school supply drive for a school that was outside of our district, but it was because of the need, and to also support our teachers and the families at that school. I do look forward to continue to serve. I feel like I will be able to bring my community involvement and my engagement with children will bring a perspective that will definitely be imperative in making informed board decisions. Thank you so much for having me tonight, and I look forward to the Q&A. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Carroll. I'm the Republican candidate running for the Board of Supervisors for the Matoaka District. I want to say thank you for putting this together, Joe, and thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I know you have a lot of other things you can be doing with your kids than being here listening to us. I'm a retired sergeant with the Chesterfield County Police Department. In 1986, I was fortunate enough to be offered a job here. I moved here from Rhode Island, where I grew up. I worked all different assignments throughout the police department. I was a uniform operations supervisor, where I actually supervised all of the police officers out here on the evening shift that worked in this area. I've lived in Matoaka my almost the entire 33 years I've been here. I've lived in Deer Run for 15 years, and now I live in a house down off of Nash Road. When I retired last year, the county hired me back to teach, so I work for the police department again as a firearms instructor. I teach constitutional law and interrogation. I've been a lobbyist for the Fraternal Order of Police of Virginia for the last 12 years as a volunteer position. the State Lodge President of the Fraternal Order of Police for the Commonwealth of Virginia, and the local Lodge President of the Fraternal Order of Police for the last 18 years. So I have a lot of experience working not just as a supervisor here in Chesterfield County, but also at the state level with legislators, with the governor, lieutenant governor, and members of Congress. So I have contacts all across, not just in the state government, but the local governments as well. And I love Chesterfield County. Everything I have in my life I owe to Chesterfield. I'm a Chesterfield, shop Chesterfield type person. You know, if it wasn't for the taxpayers here, I wouldn't have had a job. My life has been all about service to the community. As the president of the FOP, we have a local program that we do. It's called our Christmas with a Cop program. We take underprivileged children shopping every year. We spend $150 so they get clothes and toys that they wouldn't get at Christmas. We have a Title I school program where we provide school supplies or book bags every year. This year we did it in Ettrick, but we've done it in all the different Title I schools all across Chesterfield. So I've been involved in the community, not just in the volunteer capacities, but also as keeping you safe. I worked on the most egregious homicide cases over the years that have happened in our community. So I love Chesterfield County. I want to continue to serve you, and that's why I'm running for the Board of Supervisors. Thank you.
I'd also like to say thank you to the PTA for having this forum for us. My name is Ryan Harder. I know some of you because I live right down the street here. My wife Megan and I have 4 children, and who all attend Chesterfield County schools. My daughter Savannah is a 3rd grader here in the school. We have 2 kids that are at Bailey Bridge, and we have a high school over at Cosmo. So all the same issues that you feel, the frustration with transportation, the frustrations with traffic, picking our kids up there, I feel it too, okay? I was a teacher here in the county. Prior to that, I was in the Air Force. My wife Meg was also in the Air Force, and we traveled around. While I was in the Air Force, I taught military police academy for 4 years. Then I taught civics and economics. Once I left the military, we came back to Chesterfield County, and I got into teaching public schools. So currently, I'm going to keep this real short because everyone else already went, and I figure we just get on with the questions. But I want to represent you guys because I feel the pains that you guys have. I see the frustrations. I'm ready to work. I'm ready to give it 110% to work with whoever's on the Board of Supervisors to fix these problems because they are issues. Okay, Chesterfield County schools are good. If you take a look at school systems around the state, we are one of the better schools, but we have areas that we can improve it. And that's what I plan to do over the next 4 years, is work with you, work with our teachers, our principals, and our elected officials, okay, to improve our schools from where they're at now. Thank you.
All right, so our cadence for tonight will be alternating between questions for our school board candidates and questions for the Board of Supervisors. Now, there are obviously some topics that have overlap, and so for the list of questions we provided, some of those are on both, because we want to hear from everybody who may be representing our area. The first question starts with our school board candidates, and it's a calendar question. That question is, what is your position on the school year starting before Labor Day? And then in addition to that, we've discussed year-round schools being tested as well as new start times that have recently gone into effect. Give us some perspective on how that falls with you, and if given the opportunity to lead, what changes would you like to see made?
You pick from whoever you want.
So to answer your first question, I believe it was pertaining to school start times. Is that correct? Okay. I was not in agreement with the school start time. That changed, I think it was probably about a year or 2 ago. I think it really caused, it was at a time in which there was a lot of transition at one time. and it was not the appropriate time to change the school start time because you had a change in administration with a new transportation director coming on board. And with them learning our transportation process, how our system works, I would not recommend changing something as large as our school district is a school start time. I do feel as though it is very important that we receive feedback from our parents as well as from our teachers. Prior to making such a significant change such as that, it actually built onto this ongoing transportation problem. So had we took more time to assess, to plan prior to implementation, I think those are the steps I will take. Well, I know those are the steps that I will take prior to making any significant changes such as that. And I believe that's all I have on that note. Next question. The year-round schools.
I tell you what, I think I ran two questions together, which complicated things a little bit. Why don't we address the start times and then we'll come back.
I'll just talk about all three of them really quick. So the school start times, it's a disaster that we're still feeling this year. As a teacher, I know that there was some studies behind changing the school start times, depending on what time students are better focused in learning. However, it did create a lot of problems. And one of the problems is the bus routes. Okay, changing the start times created 17 additional routes that we did not have the manning for. Okay. Bus driver shortages are nothing new to Chesterfield County, okay, but this just really magnified the problem. And what we need to take a look at is, now that we're already into this situation with transportation, we need to take a look at how we can try to fix it with what we have right now. As far as the schools starting before Labor Day, I know that was one of the questions. The Virginia legislature passed a law saying that we could now start schools before Labor Day. That's great that we have the opportunity now to do that if we would so choose to do so. But I think that it's important now to change what we're already doing, that we have feedback from the parents, from the community, from the teachers, okay? To make sure that if we were to change them, that we have the majority support to do so, and that it would be beneficial. And then also the third thing that I believe was on the third question was talking about year-round school. They started this 2 years ago at, I believe it was Bellwood Elementary. And this year they moved it into Falling Creek Middle School. It's too early to really see what the data shows, if there's big improvements in student achievement or not. I think it's too early for us to really make a determination on that. That's a process that we need to go ahead and watch for probably the next couple of years, take a look at that data, and then put the decision out to the community.
My perspective on year-round schools would be contingent upon how a pilot program perhaps would work. We have a school that will be piloting this program, like Ryan said, looking at some data. I do feel as though year-round schools can be very beneficial in several different ways. One, it could allow our teachers to have get paid year-round without having to gain a part-time job or employment during the summer. You would also have the opportunity to have more breaks as opposed to your regular school year. That's another benefit and a plus. It would also benefit our low-income families in many different ways. It has its pluses. I think it is something that I'm open to trying new things, being innovative. You don't ever know until you've tried it. But again, it's one of those areas that we should evaluate data as well as get feedback from our families and see how it works. But do know there are some positive, there are some positive gains from having a school start time, and it also assists with the discipline as well with our students. I think that it is something that Chesterfield County Schools can look into, and it may be the way to go. Thank you.
No, I think I addressed it. Does anyone have any questions on any further questions they can answer on a particular topic, school start times, starting before Labor Day?
I have a question. No, we're going to do another question.
My apologies.
This question is to the Board of Supervisors, Kenneth, for you. The question is, how will you help address the transportation issues we currently have? And then secondly, do you have a plan for improving funding for our school transportation?
I stand, so forgive me for that. And if you see me fanning, the women will understand this. I have these private summers that just come over me, so explain that to your husbands on the way home. But in reference to transportation, first of all, we have to identify the cause of the issue. And this is something that's across the Wetumpka district. The overdevelopment, having more development than resources. And we're playing catch up versus being proactive, we are being reactive. And that is unfair, but it's a situation that we have to find the short term and the long term, because we just can't ignore the fact that there is excessive overdevelopment. So we have to be conscientious in how we handle that, but really provide balance. When an applicant presents his request to the board, like really analyze that and see how it impacts our neighborhoods, how will it impact our schools, how will it impact if we need more firehouses or if we need more law enforcement. Get the data, get the information at the beginning, and then put the onus on the applicant as we have the data to see how we can bring better balance. But right now, in the transportation issues, because Wetumpka district is so huge, but it's very diverse. So one size does not fit all. So the issues that you may face on the western part are going to be totally different from the issues on the southern part. And so just being very mindful that as we approach it, one size does not fit all. And in reference to the funding piece, whenever I hear a funding question, I always want to start at the basics. What do we have first? And how are we spending it? And what can we do better with that? And when you're dealing with, yes ma'am, my time is up. So when you're dealing with funding, I think it's always key to assess where you are. Assess where you are, assess all of our funding sources, and then go from there. But never be afraid to consult and confer with others. Just be data-driven. Thank you.
Thank you. So in reference to the transportation question, is that specifically for the busing issue or just general for the entire county in transportation?
It's twofold. It's to address transportation and funding for transportation.
Okay, so we're talking about buses too. Okay, that's fine. So, absolutely correct that we have a transportation problem in Chesterfield County. We had a school change that took place, and they didn't take into consideration what it was going to do to the busing routes. So we need to work closely with the bigger picture here. The bigger picture is not just with the school board, because it's very important to work with the school board. It's also important to work with the development communities, because there is a problem with our process when you talk about development. And I've been saying it for years. If you go and look now at any development plan, you're going to see a couple of things that are on there that talk about schools. You're going to see a recommendation that talks about the fire department. There's nothing in there about how it affects public safety and where it's the police department. So the county has a process where these things are looked at holistically as they go through there, and they're not looking at everything. So we need to do better on that. And yes, we have an infrastructure problem which affects the ability for the buses to travel down the roads to get to pick up the kids. If we have bad roads, which we have, that need to be fixed, we have to fix the roads. It makes it easier for the buses to travel down them without bumping mirrors because they're passing each other. The funding piece, yeah, we have the money in Chesapeake County. It's just about making it a priority. That's what it boils down to. You have to look at the budget and make things a priority. And if the priority is that we have to hire more bus drivers, then we got to hire more bus drivers. The problem is finding them when your unemployment is only at 2.9%. It's hard to find people to come work. Thank you.
All right, for our school board candidates, short question. Will you help eliminate Winterpock's overcrowding issues?
So yes, so the overcrowding is a problem. If you take a look at the numbers across the county, especially for elementary schools, we're at about 128%. Okay, it's ridiculous. We've all seen the trailers come in this year. It's not something that we wanted to. So there's pretty much two ways that we can take a look at this to reduce it. We know that the school over in Magnolia Green is going to be built, but not until 2022. Most of our kids will already be through here. But it's also about what we're going to leave for the kids after us. So one of the solutions is that we do some minor redistricting in some different areas and look, because some of the schools are only at 90%, some of them are only at 80% capacity. Especially when you're talking about Alberta Smith, Spring Run Elementary, Clover Hill Elementary across the road. Grange Hall is at max capacity. They're at about 102%, but we're really over here. And there's a lot of things that feed into that. Center-based gifted program that's here feeds into that. Some different ways, things that we can take a look at is waivers. How many waivers do we approve coming in and out for, and that's a principal and assistant principal decision for them to make. But the short answer is that we really have two options, and it is redistricting, or we just kind of have to wait it out with the trailers. And either one of those answers is something I don't want to hear, and I know it's something that you don't want to hear, but it's the reality. It's the reality of what we have to deal with.
I guess I'll stand like everybody else is standing. Yes, I will be an advocate. I will voice and make it known that the overcrowding is intolerable. It is not acceptable for various reasons. One is safety. We need to begin putting our children's safety first. Safety is always a priority when we're looking at our children in our schools. Chesterfield County is a growing county. It is going to continue to grow. As you drive down Whole Street, traveling out west, you see all the new development that wasn't here last year. Our schools are what is one of the areas that make our county attractable to a lot of people in the surrounding counties and other parts of the districts. So what we have to begin to do is look at some methods of how are we going to address this problem, because they're going to increase before they actually decrease. One of the ways that we're going to have to do this is look at, number one, and I've always said this, is are our children that are living in our communities attending schools? And I do realize there are a lot of children that are being bused, but they're being bused from alarming distances. We need to look at establishing programs within each district, similar programs, so that way our children can attend their community schools, schools in their neighborhood. We have children that are being bused from neighborhoods as far away as the Highlands and further beyond beyond that area. So we really need to look at what are our demographics in our school. Where are our children, the distance that they are traveling, and we may have to begin dispersing our children to other schools for a short period of time. I know it's going to be uncomfortable, but just to get things to where they are stabilized and our teacher-student ratio is in compliance. Is my time up? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. To continue along this line, this is a question for the Board of Supervisors. All we have seemed to hear is that there's no money for new schools, capital improvements, or anything else of value to young families in this area. Why do you think the county cut proffers and restrict the remaining funds to transportation?
When I read this question, why do you think the county cut proffers? I have a personal opinion on that, but when you're trying to develop a working relationship, like I recognize the importance of proffers and what that could have done. But we have a current Board of Supervisors in which that occurred, so the proper persons to respond to that question would be them. What I would suggest, if I'm elected in office, to revisit that issue. But definitely I wouldn't give out, because I'm sure we've all heard, and have our speculations, but definitely wouldn't just in front of you all say, something that one of the board members currently did based on what I think. Because in developing a working relationship, if I'm elected, whether I'm Democrat or Republican, whoever are the remaining board and supervisors are, I have to work with them. And so the proffers, they have been cut, yes, that is unfortunate, but we just have to look at other means and other ways to make up for that. But obviously, with the opportunity to revisit that, once again, data-driven. Look at the data, look at the numbers, and see what we can do to implement it.
The reason, as explained, as to why the current Board of Supervisors changed the proffer program had to do with legislation that was introduced in 2016 to the General Assembly that restricted the use of proffers and made it more difficult to use proffers for other things, off-site proffers, for example, schools, fire departments, on-site proffers, or the roads within the community. So the 2016 legislation changed that. So what the county did, again, they did it, not me, they decided to cut it to $9,400. Why? Because matching transportation dollars from the state, the max you can get are $9,400. So with every proffer when a house in Chesterfield County that has a proffer on it gets its certificate of occupancy, when people get ready to move in, that's $9,400 that comes to the county, and they apply to the state for another $9,400 for transportation dollars, which resulted in last year in Chesterfield County getting the second highest amount in transportation dollars, matching funds from the state than any other jurisdiction in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, that being said, I don't like proffers in some respects because they actually raise the cost of your house. Does anybody think that when they put a $10,000 proffer on your house, that the developer's taking it and saying, I'm just going to absorb that into the cost? No, they pass it on to your house. My house has gone up $45,000 in the last 2 years because of bigger houses being built next to me that have proffers on them. So it raises everybody's tax rate. I certainly think that we should always look at whatever we're doing to the public, and if we have to change it because things change, yes. So revisiting the proffer policy, of course, we should look at for any part of our budget because of what our priorities are. The proffers, like I said, they have at least helped us get transportation dollars. So again, I didn't do that, current board did, and I would be willing to revisit that as well. Thank you.
I should have mentioned that the last question was a short one. I'm going to pay for that. This is a bit longer. For most of us in the room, there's no avoiding the reality that our kids will spend at least 1 year of their elementary education in trailers outside of the actual school. Everyone has been quick to blame someone else in the story of how we got here. Now that the entire school board is leaving, there seems to be no accountability. How does that change? Won't it be easy for an entirely new board to spend their first term simply blaming the people that are no longer around? What is going to be different with you, and how will you ask us to keep you accountable?
Nobody has time to be engaging in finger pointing. We've seen enough of this taking place in our government on the U.S. level and the state level. It's very unproductive. It's time to get to work. Seriously, it's time to get to work. Anybody that knows me know I'm very no-nonsense. I believe in engaging with the people, regardless of your religion, your background, your sex. I've done this for most of my life. I'm not as young as you think I am, but it's just time to get to work. I believe in working hard. I believe in asking questions and getting down to the bottom line of things. That's what I plan to do. That is what I currently do. How you can help hold me accountable, you send me emails. You invite me out to your community. I will be there. You shoot me an email about the successes of your child, your neighbor. It's a two-way street. That's what communication is all about. That's why it's CO. Send me an email. You can also have engage me by calling my phone. I will have set up creative methods and ways where I'm meeting with you on a regular basis. Town hall meetings. May not be monthly, maybe quarterly. But I really have a lot of great plans in store. I don't just accept positions and not do the job. I give 110%. I have a track record that proves it. Feel free to stay behind later after this Q&A, and I will be able to share more information with you about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Ms. Potts is absolutely correct. The finger pointing from the federal level and the state level, but I'm going to add one more, and even on the local level. Just look at what just happened with our maintenance issues over the last couple months. And everyone is just pointing the finger at each other, okay? Now, I don't know exactly what happened, who dropped the ball, whose fault it was. But what I plan to do is to start working on day one to fix these issues, to bring transparency of what is going on in the school board to everyone, okay? That is not just in Matoaka, but for the entire county. Because yes, I will be the Matoaka representative, but it's also for the entire county. And that's what we need to do. As far as how you hold me accountable, very simple. 4 years, you go to the election. If I don't try, if I don't hold up with what I say I'm going to do, and I'm not going to ever promise to fix every problem, but I'm going to tell you that I promise to give it 110%. And I promise that I'm going to continue to keep trying to make progress.
Thank you. The next question is for the Board of Supervisors. Why won't meal taxes work in Chesterfield County? Neighboring counties are thriving and flushed with cash to properly plan and implement the communities in our area. Yet, we are always short. What needs to change, and how will you change it?
There are 102,000 people in Chesterfield County that leave here every day to go work somewhere else. There's about 70,000 people that come into Chesterfield to work, and there's about 49,000 people that work within our community. So you can pass a meals tax, and I'm not in favor of it, but it doesn't matter what Kevin Carroll thinks. What matters is what you think. If you want a meals tax, we'll put it out for a referendum and you can vote for it. And the last time they had it in 2013, it was overwhelmingly defeated in Chesterfield County. Only 4 precincts carried. And in Henrico, they passed it, and there were 5 precincts that actually carried that in Henrico more so than anything else. We have a deficit here in workers. There are 190,000 jobs in Henrico County. There's 155,000 in Richmond. There's 137,000 here. Why do they do better than us? Because we go over there to work, and we go over there to play, and we spend our money in Henrico and Richmond. So yeah, they're going to do much better on the meals tax. If you put a meals tax here, you're taxing yourself. You're going to tax you. You're going to tax everybody in this room every time you go out to get a dinner. And if you're okay with that, then vote for it. Put it on a referendum and vote for it. Doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you think. But I want to bring those 190,000 jobs in Henrico, I want to bring some from here. That'll help us with the problems that we have. Bringing more jobs to Chesterfield County. Imagine if you didn't have to get on 288 northbound to go work in the West End in the morning because we created something out here, some type of office park, and we can move your job here instead of having commute in that traffic. We need to bring those jobs in Henrico and Richmond here. That'll help us with our tax base. It'll help us get a better corporate base to help pay for these expenditures that we have to do. But I would put it out for the people to make that decision.
I agree with Mr. Carroll. 2013, the mills tax was voted on, and surprisingly, only the village of Ettrick was in support of it. If that's something that the people, our neighbors, our citizens are interested in, solicit the feedback as a Board of Supervisor representative, I would definitely get the information, present to you the pros and the cons, but ultimately it should be the decision of our neighbors, our constituents.
For our school board candidates, we're going to move to school safety. The School Safety Task Force was established in 2017 with recommendations to be implemented. We were told due to budget, though the recommendations were great, none of them would be implemented at that time. What will you do to ensure that we have the budget to implement some of the recommendations to keep our children safe? What we currently have in place for the safety of the children and staff is simply not enough.
What I would do to ensure that we have a sufficient amount of money or adequate amount of money in the budget for school safety is to review our budget line by line. There are some areas on our budget that we do not need any allocation or less allocation. It may need to be eliminated from the budget. Some areas are just a little too top heavy. And we need to go through and review that budget line by line and ensure that our funding, your tax dollars, is being allocated in the appropriate place. And the appropriate places are where there is a need. I always put student safety first, is priority. That also includes our teachers. Our teachers are in the classrooms with our students. So when we say students, that's also encompasses our teachers. So when we're looking at our budget, there are some areas in which there were increases. Some of our contracted services. We really need to look at that and examine that very well and reallocate that to areas such as safety. So in doing so, when I am elected as your school board candidate to represent Matoaka District, you can rest assured and be guaranteed that I will pay close attention and make decisions that are in your best interest, not wasteful spending. It's time out for that. There are too many needs. Building infrastructure is one, transportation. Pay increases for our teachers, full-time counselors in every school, and nurses. So this is what we're talking about when we're looking at our budget. Thank you.
I'll actually agree with Ms. Potts on this because this is what needs to happen. We need to go ahead and take a look at our budget and rebalance it. We need to take a look at what we are spending things on. As a classroom teacher, okay, I've seen multiple things that have come down without really any input from teachers that cost a lot of money. When you trace the money back to find out how much the county paid for a particular program or switch something over, it'll make your stomach upset on some of these things. So it is important that we take a look at the budget and we free up some of the money, because I'll tell you something that is more important, okay, than switching from Google Classroom to Canvas is making sure that we have adequate security at our schools, okay? I spoke with Mr. Carroll before, and we were talking about the New Magnolia Green School, okay? Our schools are kind of flawed the way they're designed, and someone had a good point. You open up those front doors, you're right here, you've got a cafeteria, it's a soft target. We don't have any exterior cameras or limited exterior cameras outside the school. Those are all things we need to take into consideration when building new schools, but it's also things we need to bring back and start implementing into the schools we have now. So I would make sure that we had money to at least start chipping away at things that are going to make our kids safer. Just like you guys. Kids out in that trailer, it gives me nightmares, okay? In the military, I did anti-terrorism force protection stuff. I did threat assessments, okay? And you're right, it is a soft target. So I'm very passionate about it. Most definitely I want to take a look at the budget, because safety of our children has to be number one before we, like I said, get a different program.
Thank you. And to the Board of Supervisors, same question. What will you do to ensure the budget to implement, what will you do to ensure we have the budget to implement some of the recommendations to keep our children safe? What we currently have for our safety of our children and staff is not enough.
So if you read the safety plan that was, the study that was done, you will see that our schools are not where they should be. I did a perimeter check on this school earlier, one camera coming through the front door, no camera on the outside, no camera on the exits. So not only do we have to make sure that when we build new schools that they're properly funded and they have the right type of security systems, we need to bring that to the old schools. And it is about looking at the budget and making cuts where you can cut, because that's where you got to find the money. But if you can't find the money in the budget, not to fund the whole thing, because remember, we have a lot of schools in Chesapeake County, right? That I would push the school board to put it in their CIP for the future, and to also make sure they get it as part of the new bond referendum that's going to come up in 2021. And we maybe if we get the money, if the citizens, if you approve it in the bond referendum, we can get the money quicker, and we can start retrofitting these schools quicker. As a firearms instructor, I'm one of the guys that teaches the police officers to go in to save your kids if there's someone who's an active shooter. I just participated a couple of months ago at Crestwood Elementary School where we did a mass casualty exercise with all the police officers and the firefighters. And that's so we can keep on track of this. We got to keep our kids safe. I'm a big proponent of school resource officers. We have to have those officers in the schools. If someone comes through that door, we have an officer there to stop them. We save your kids. And so when I'm elected, I'm going to make sure that the chief of police has the money to make sure the school resources funded. And the schools the elementary schools, part of that recommendation was for more school resource officers. But if we can't get them first, we'll get school security officers in here first and get camera systems that can be monitored all day long. Thank you.
As a parent, I have 3 boys myself. The last thing that you want to even think about is sending your children to school and then the unthinkable happens. Remember the good old days when you go to school, you just did that. You went to school, you learned, you played on the playground, you went home. But that's not the case anymore. Schools need to be approached more in a vibrant manner. And when we look at our funding, it does come, you have your local source, your state source, and then your federal source. But also when you talk about funding, the General Assembly will oftentimes dictate unfunded mandates. And so as a board member, I definitely would try to advocate more, okay, we will take your mandates, but provide some funding. And so that is something to be considered. We want our children to be safe. We want our teachers to be safe. But one thing I can say, I'm a guardian ad litem with my law practice. And being able to come into a building as a professional, all the show is just my ID, and I can pretty much go anywhere. This day and age, with your opioid addictions and things that are going on, you can't be so trustworthy. And we have to protect our children who are the most vulnerable. But once again, it goes with the planning, with the development. When we have these schools, that stuff should be at the core of the plans. We should make sure that security is key. Make sure that our children are safe and our teachers are safe. And make sure that we have persons, whether they're the security officers, use your watchdogs. Sometimes your solutions are within the school. And I've been involved in a lot of different churches who have different members and different organizations within their church who would welcome being a support system of the school. But that is definitely one area that I would definitely be an advocate for, making sure that our schools are secured properly.
When the new Old 100 Elementary School opened, on day 1 it was above capacity. Few people think that won't be the case when the new Magnolia Green School opens. What does the path forward look like to prevent that school from being overcrowded and thus continuing the trend towards reduced quality in our kids' classes?
So I think what kind of happened here is we had 2 communities that were growing at the same time, Magnolia Green and Harper's Mill. And we didn't forward plan fast enough to think that we were going to need another elementary school. We didn't think that we were going to need that infrastructure, okay? When Magnolia Green School opens, I would imagine that probably the majority of everyone in Magnolia Green will probably attend that school. But that community is still growing, just like Harper's Mill is still growing. We need to be balanced with how we send children to schools. We need to make sure that we're using the most up-to-date data with the Board of Supervisors, with the Planning Commission, to make sure that we're able to forecast that our schools are balanced. So that, look, a smaller classroom with a less student-to-teacher ratio is the best thing that we can have. All these other programs that we pull in to try to augment teachers, it doesn't work. Nothing is better than a smaller classroom size. And that should be the goal. So when the new Magnolia Green School does open, careful consideration needs to be taken to alleviate first Winterpock and to take a look at how many projected students we're going to have coming into that, because we need to make sure that when that school does open, okay, that we don't immediately push it to capacity and then drop other schools way below capacity, because then that ends up redistricting. And redistricting is not something that really should happen every year. It should happen every few years, and it should be very slight to make adjustments. Changing it every year is just, in my opinion, a horrible idea, and it's something that we don't really, as parents, I can take it, is not something that you would look forward to.
This is going to be really simple for me. It's just plan, plan, plan. You don't start your planning process the year your school is going to open. You need to be planning now, this year. We need to be looking at our data, looking at our student to teacher population, look at our numbers, the number of constituents we have in our district, look at the number of students that can be accommodated in our school. The departments need to be working closely together on an ongoing basis, on a consistent basis. Sometimes there's just a lack of communication. We have to improve our communication, and we have to hire competent people. I don't mean to offend anybody, but a lot of times we hire staff that do not have the wherewithal or the knowledge or the skill set to be able to deliver the service, to make good on the job. We're hiring people because they're our neighbor, they're our friend, they're our church member. We have to hire the experts. I want to ensure, and I'm going to ensure, that we are hiring experts, the one that is fit for the job, suited for the job, to do the job. So we need to be planning far in advance, not the year the school is scheduled to open. There needs to be proper assessments. We can't afford to allow these schools to continue to be overcrowded and bringing in these trailers on our campuses. It's unacceptable. It's truly unacceptable. I'm very passionate about this. I hear it everywhere that I go, when I'm in the community. Our parents and our teachers are very angered by this. So we have to do a better job at planning prior to implementation. And I'm going to see to it that that gets done. Thank you.
I'd like to give our Board of Supervisor candidates the opportunity to follow up on that question. As the Magnolia Green School looks to open in the next several years, how do we interrupt the trend of new school, now it's full, wait a couple of years, rinse and repeat?
I think, as was already stated, redistricting may have to be an option. Also, being proactive versus reactive. We already know what's coming, so plans should already be in place, and these plans should be just data-driven. You know, have the experts come in, you know, give input, give feedback, just be better prepared, but also provide better balance. And we're at a point where we're able to provide that when we don't have to always play catch up, so why not take advantage of that? So the redistricting, being proactive versus always being reactive, and really relying on data.
If anybody went to or watched the Board of Supervisors meeting that took place, not the last one, last month, you would have seen a presentation that Alan Carmody did on data-driven decisions for the future of Chesterfield County. They are working on a new comprehensive software program with Microsoft that will take into consideration a whole new litany of matrix when determining data in Chesterfield County. We're going to look at birth rates, we're going to look at home sales, we're going to look at projected sales of houses within developments. So yeah, there's going to be a much better data center for us to make these decisions in the future. And it's in its infancy stages right now, but the presentation that they showed the other night at the Board of Supervisors meeting is very impressive. And if it works, we will have a better way of knowing when, for example, you sell your house here and move somewhere else, and another family moves in and they have 3 kids that are going to attend the schools. Now, as far as Mag Green goes, we're still in the development stages. So now that we're going to have this new tool, we should be able to look at those numbers and not just, you got to remember now, there's 6,000 more houses slated to be built out here. This community here at Harper's Mill, if you look at that, that's 2,000 houses that are slated, and it's only a quarter of the way through. So the 6,000 houses, that'll all be worked into that matrix, and not forgetting the 2 brand new apartment complexes they just approved across the street. We're going to have a bunch of data to look at, and if we have to build a bigger school, build a bigger school. And I want to make sure there's room in that school. If we need to do expansion and we have to put another building on it later on down the road, then we put a building on a trailer. And if we don't need it later, then guess what? I'm pretty sure the community will find a use for that building. So we need to make sure that we plan for the future, and I think we've got a good plan coming that's going to help us with all this data to be much more efficient than we've been. And that's the problem that we have. We haven't been as efficient. Look at this school here. From the entrance standpoint, you come in one way out with all the buses. I came in the other day, there was 75 cars, people lined up trying to come in and get their kids. The traffic pattern here is terrible. We have to do better, and we're going to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we wrap up, which I want to thank everybody for their time and their patience, I would like to ask everybody a question. It is not on your paper, but this is just an open forum for questions at this point. My question is this: we have done business as usual for so long, I don't think we know how to work outside of the box. As a county citizen, how do you plan to create more inclusive situations within our community and our school? Tolerance for people to not be feeling inclusive or included, like their voice doesn't matter. The teachers here and at other Chesterfield County schools, they do a great job with trying to create that environment. But I believe it needs to be in our school board and on our delegate level. How will you try to make that change?
So you're right, teachers do great. Inclusion in classrooms is something that takes place all the time. Everyone is valued. And when we're talking about inclusion into different schools and we're talking about inclusion in the community, it means we need to have everyone involved, and we need to let everyone know that their opinions, their values, okay, that there's something that we all believe in, and there's something that we all respect. I was actually just looking earlier at the school bus forum that's on Facebook for Save the Bus Drivers. And the bus drivers are actually one class of the schools that, is really underappreciated. They really are. And they take our children to and from school safely every day. It may be late sometimes. They may miss the stop sometimes, but ultimately we trust our children with them for the most part. And they talked about inclusion on different things. And I just think we have not all had our opinions valued. And that is a reality of today. So I think that being open on the school board and with the Board of Supervisors and allowing everyone to have input on things. All these decisions we talked about tonight, about starting the school year before Labor Day, changing school start times, those are all things that we need community input on. We need to have everyone's opinion on it before we make a decision. It may not be something necessarily that I like, but if the majority of people would rather have something, then the majority of people are going to get it. And that's just what I will strive for while I'm on the school board, is to make sure that all of our processes are more inclusive for everyone, and that they are able, that we're all able to see them, that they're transparent, and everybody has an opportunity and everybody feels valued.
He's absolutely right. It's all about communication. It's about effective communication. 2 ways. And it's also about listening. It doesn't matter what I think. I want to serve you. What matters is what you think. I spoke last year against the planning case that they were doing off of Woolworth Road because the people from the community came to me and said, hey, we don't want this, we don't like it. Can you help us out? And I looked at it and I said, you know what, I agree with you, I don't like it either. And I spoke against the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission on that. Took a lot of heat for it. It's the right thing to do. Because I listened to the people. There's a solar farm down at Epps Falls Road. The people down there don't want it either. The county's going to push that through. But if you listen to the people down there, they don't want it for their own reasons. Chesterfield County is a great community. It's a big community. Matoka itself is very big. But the neighborhoods where you live, if you live in Mag Green, those are your people. If you live in Hampton Park, those are your people. If you live in Harper's Mill, those are your people. If you live in Ettrick, those are your people. And as a leader, you have to get the input of those people and find out what's important to them. That's why you want to do this job in the first place. I'm doing it for me. I have a pension. I could retire. I don't have to do this at all. But I have a passion for people and solving people's problems. That's what I've been able to do for Chesterfield County for the last 32 years. That's what I want to continue to do for you. It's all about communication. It's about listening and being compassionate about it, not just saying, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's a difference. And that's what I'm going to do for you.
How I will be able to assist in making our teachers, our parents, our community feel as though they are a part or inclusive in this whole process. I'm right here. I don't see myself up here, you down here. I've been in a position where I felt as though my voice was not being heard. So when somebody can actually relate to you, I think being able to relate to people on their level is an asset. I've gone through a lot of experiences I'm quite sure that I share with many of you. So being able to relate to you on your level, sharing some of the same experiences, difficulties, that makes me viable to the whole working dynamics, me working with you, you working with me. I feel as though I always say, you can agree to, but you don't have to be disagreeable. People are not going to always agree with you. But as a leader, we chose to do this. So we may have individuals like yourselves coming out to the board meetings and being very vocal. I've been that person, but I'm going to respect you. But I'm also going to be concerned enough to meet with you or have you to send me an email and acknowledge what your concern and your complaint is. Again, we can agree to disagree, but I think there has to be a level of respect with our constituents. We have to value each and every one of you because you have tax dollars that are invested in this county. And I value you as well. Thank you.
I agree with a lot of everything that everyone else has said. The only thing that I will add to that is collaboration. Collaboration is key when you're working with different organizations, when you're working with different people. But you have to know how to collaborate. One good example, when I'm doing my cases and working with the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office, we have a job to do. I'm going to represent my client, they're going to represent their client. But at the end of the day, we shake hands, that case is over. It's not personal. And so when you keep the main issue, you keep the emotion out, you keep the personal feelings out, whether you're affiliated with this party or not, you just do the right thing and aspire to do that and work together to do that. And don't lose focus off of that. Sometimes egos and selfish ambitions get in the way, but just keep reminded that, this position, you are an elected official. You serve the people. So you owe them the opportunity to listen to what they have to say, but not just listen, act upon it. And even if there is a decision that is rendered that is not favorable, give an explanation, but don't make it confrontational, because ultimately, we're all from the Matoka district, ultimately greater on the board, we're all with Chesterfield County. So definitely, we should have the same goal. We should want Chesterfield to thrive, want all our children to have the same resources, the same opportunities. And there are certain areas in the Matoka district where they don't. There are certain disparities within the southern part and in the western part. And that shouldn't be something that we should shy away from because it may make us uncomfortable. Let's just come up with a solution and get to work.
We really appreciate your all's time tonight. We'd like to take a minute or two so that each of you can give us a quick summary, wrap up, and then I'll close this down. Okay? Reverse order. Okay.
Quick summary. So once again, very passionate about working with people. That's why I'm in the law field. That's why I have my master's in social work. I always wanted to help others. And I just strive to do the right thing, whether it's popular or whether it's unpopular. I'm going to stand for what's right. And just really a people person. I have a heart for people. No selfish ambitions. You know, I could be doing something else, but I choose to serve and I choose to use the experiences that I've had and the relationships that I have formed over the 18 years where I have been practicing. And it's not just for that. I am from here. My children go here. So, of course, I'm invested, but not just for myself. The way that I was raised, the two best parents in the back, always looking out for others, not just our family, but for our neighbors. And the way I was raised, my neighbor is anyone who's in need. And so that's why I'm running, to do the right thing and just to make a better difference, a greater impact, and to move forward. Thank you.
In closing, I want to thank everybody for having myself and all of the other candidates out tonight. But in closing, I would like to say that I am a woman of integrity. I'm a woman who has moral values. And I think that is something that is diminishing today. You will be able to have someone that will not embarrass you, that will not antagonize you, but will value you. I believe in access, accountability, and transparency. And I stand on that. I'm not up here to give you some political jargon, because we hear enough of that. You need to hear from somebody that's what they can do for you. I believe in investing in my community. I value my parents, my neighbors, church members, everyone, and our children. I have spent tireless amounts of time and energy in building our children, our community, throughout working with different organizations. I just got sworn in a couple of months ago to be a Richmond CASA advocate, so I can continue to fight for abused children in the judicial system. So it doesn't stop here. If I'm elected, I'll be able to continue the work on a larger level. If not, I will continue to do the work. Thank you so much tonight for, again, having me out. And I look forward to meeting with some of you at the end. And let's get the job done. Let's go to work. It's a new time for a new, fresh start. Time for a change. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much for coming out tonight. As I said earlier, there are many other things you could have been doing, so it's very important for us that we have an opportunity to get to you. I am a passionate person. That's why I loved being a police officer in Chester County for 32 years. I loved helping people. I was a volunteer fireman before I did this when I was a younger man. No, I'm not originally from here, but I made a conscious decision to move here and stay here. I love Chesterfield. It is, I actually have lived here a lot longer than when I lived in Rhode Island. I do believe in collaboration and working together. I pledge that I will work together with whoever gets elected to the Board of Supervisors, no matter what party they're from, to try and find solutions for Chesterfield County. It's not about partisan politics. We see enough of that in Washington, D.C., and so much so you want to just change the channel every day. I will work with the board, with the school board, to make sure we find the solutions for the schools, because that's all part of our community. It's our community. It's your community. It's my community. It's all of us together. And oh yeah, thanks for pointing out CASA. We've supported CASA for years too, but for about the last 10 years we've made donations to CASA, the Court Appointed Special Advocacy Program. It's a great program, and we need to make sure we continue to work with them on that. I'd be honored to have you vote on November the 5th. If you consider voting for me, I would be greatly appreciative of that. And you will always be able to reach out to me, talk to me. I'll come to your house, wherever you want. Thank you.
I'd also like to say thank you, just like everyone else. I'd like to thank all the candidates also for being here and for all of us to have this respectable forum where we're able to give you guys answers. And true, we see things a little bit differently sometimes from different parties, but we're all here because we want to make a positive difference. When I was in the Air Force, our motto was integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And that's something that's stuck with me for the last 20 years, is that everything that I do, I won't do it unless I know that I'm going to give 110%. Unless I know that I'm going to do it to the best of my integrity, and I won't make excuses. This is a great community. Our schools are great, but they could be better. And I'm going to work with whoever is elected, with whatever board, with whatever legislator I have to improve our quality of life for parents, teachers, and students. Afterwards, if anyone would like to stop and talk or ask any other questions, please feel free to do so. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you all so very much for coming and taking time to answer our questions. Thank you all for coming and listening. We're going to go ahead and wrap up in the building so that our team can get home.